Imagine carrying a vision to serve others, showing up, giving, supporting again and again, only to realize when it's your turn, support doesn't show up for you. What happens in the mind, in the heart, and even in the body? When purpose meets disappointment, this segment's conversation is not just about leadership, it's about resilience, awakening, and what it truly means to rebuild when you've been carrying it alone. Welcome to Elevation in Action, Trauma, Truth, and Transformation. This podcast where we explore real stories through a trauma-informed lens, connecting lives experiences to the science of how the brain responds, adapts, and heals. I'm your host, Dr. Juanita Britt McDonald. I'm honored to be joined by Miss Toni Jacques-Baker, founder of Supply Hygiene Essentials, also known as She, an innovative created to support girls ages 11 to 21 facing period poverty. Beyond her mission, Toni's story reveals something many purpose driven women quietly carry: the emotional weight of giving, building, and believing while navigating limited support, financial strain, and personal healing. This is a conversation about purpose, disappointment, resilience, and the moment you realize everyone isn't going to support you and everyone isn't like you. Let's elevate this conversation into action by welcoming Miss Toni Jacques-Baker, founder of She.
I can't hear you. Hello?
Hey, Miss Baker, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Uh-oh, sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty. Can you hear me, Miss Baker?
I can't hear you anymore.
Okay.
I don't know
I
what
don't know.
happened, but I can't hear you.
Okay, let's try. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Okay, can you hear me?
I
I'm
can't
on, I'm going to
hear.
take her backstage and see if we can
Hello?
work on that, see what happens. And then we're going to try to bring her back and see what happens, see if we actually get her. How about that, Miss Baker? How about that?
The sound is gone.
Okay. You may have to go out and come back in. Okay. Miss Baker, can you hear me? All right. Apparently, we are still having technical difficulty. I am going to ask her to step out, to go out and come back in and see if that will work. Um, and then and see if that will work. So as she is navigating, as she is navigating, trying to work through some difficulties, um, let me share a little bit more about Elevation in Action. Our organization or the podcast is something that I have been working on for a very long time. I'm really excited about it. The biggest thing that we looked at in creating this platform is that I wanted to be able to help us normalize trauma. Yeah, normalize trauma to show the nature of just how trauma actually take place, some of the things that happen, how you and I might just be looking at trauma from one lens when there is a plethora of ways that trauma can impact the body. And so talking with individuals such as Miss Jacquees is one of those ways. Hearing her story about building, and I don't want to give away too much about her organization, her nonprofit, the process of her going through it. Just having general conversations such as this will help us to begin to understand just how little ways that trauma kind of sneaks in, and and may paralyze us in a sense, from these little minor places. And so, just to kind of give you a little bit of background about Jacquees, she and I met several years ago, at around the time that she was building her organization, her nonprofit called She. And and at the time she was just looking for ways, to create a nonprofit, to build that up. Um, and so, just like most people, when you have a vision, the very first thing when you have that vision that you want to do is you want to make certain that you bring it to life, right? And so
Yes.
that's what's happening. Miss Jacquees was Baker, and I have to remember she just got married in
You're
December. Yeah,
good.
so if I say something wrong, that is the
That's
reason why I am
okay.
Jacquees, but it's Miss Baker.
That's okay.
Yes, and so I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here. It's like everything just cut off.
Yes, yes. So I do get it. So I'm adjusting my volume. Hopefully you can hear me very well
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, One of the things that I was sharing with individuals is that these stories that we get to tell, as we get a chance to go on your journey of building She, and taking a look at what that was like for you. And the little backdrop that I was given was when you and I first met, and you had this vision. You
Yes.
were excited about putting it together, and we connected to, where I was able to give you a little bit of advice.
Yes.
um, our organization raised funds during one of our Pantithon drives, and we were able to ship some hygiene products to
Yes.
you and your organization. And so it has been a partnership that we have been building over the years, and I just love it. And so we are so happy to have you here with us, and through all of the
Thank
technical
you.
difficulties, to hear your voice.
Okay.
I heard you take a deep breath over that.
Yes. I'm like, okay, I just got cut out. All right.
Well, I will say, just it's okay. It's
It's
technical
okay.
difficulty.
All
We're
right.
not going to, yeah, we're not going to get all up and up. So let's go ahead and dive in, Miss Tony. What was the passion behind you building?
The
Uh,
passion, yes, the passion behind me building is that I was involved with adult education in a school building that still had high school students in it, and just happened to come across a couple of ladies in the restroom one day, and they were explaining that they didn't have supplies for their hygiene, and they had to miss school and miss cheerleading practice and cheering at some of the games because they didn't have the hygiene supplies they needed. And I was like, okay. And, I kind of let it slide off my back. And then another instance came up, and I was like, the Lord must be speaking to me to see what I can do to help these young ladies. So that gave me the idea of She, which is supplying hygiene essentials for ladies and young girls from like 11 to 19, because we get in college sometime and we have to stretch that money. So that was the passion behind it, to be able to help some young ladies.
Thank you so much for sharing
Okay.
that. Just so our viewing audience will understand, period poverty is the lack of access to affordable, safe menstrual products,
Yes.
hygiene facilities, and education. This actually affects over 500 million people worldwide. It disproportionately impacts low income students, homeless population, causing missed schoolwork, health risk from using makeshift materials and deep stigma. And that
Yes.
is exactly what Miss Toni was describing. And
Hmm.
so I went ahead, Miss Toni, and pulled up the statistics in regards to that.
Okay.
And so what we're looking at is period poverty in the United States consists of 1 in 4 teens and 1 in 3 adults struggling to
Yes.
afford menstrual products. 36% of low income women miss work or school. It is disproportionately impacts low income communities and communities of color, and the stigma that impacts them is the shame, the lack of access,
Yes.
and the lack of need. And so that drive, that passion that you had because you seen a need. That's where that
Yes.
came from. You seen a
Exactly.
need, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so moving forward, you poured out, and this is something you shared with me. You poured out not only time but personal finances
Yes.
um, to do this work while holding down 2 jobs. What
Yes.
did that season demand of you emotionally and mentally?
Well, emotionally, it was like I was feeling the drive to be able to help and want to help. Mentally, it took a toll because I was at that time single, and I do have 2 children and 3 grandchildren that would call upon me at times in their times of need. So it was like I had to stretch. I was just always felt a little anxiety because I wanted to be successful in the endeavor that I wanted to be in, but I had other people that were also dependent on me. So it took a little toll on me mentally and physically.
And so just imagine, just also think about it from the perspective of not having the finances and the resources
Yeah,
to provide based on the need.
right.
What degree did you go to acquire that?
Oh, I went to degree of I tried to have fundraisers and people at church and different personal friends of mine would try to help me. But as we discussed before, I had the difficulty in getting the nonprofit status where with taxes and everything that people from companies and could give more generous donations, but they couldn't do it right off because I didn't have it's a 501c3. So that was taking a toll on me too. And then I thought I had my paperwork and everything all in order and sent in my money and everything, but they kept my money and said that I didn't do the paperwork correct, and that took a toll on me. But it didn't stop me. I just was limited as to how much I could help because I was
Mhm.
using personal funds.
Absolutely. And that's like a hard awakening in a
Yeah.
sense, Um, and so everyone, another form of hard awakening that you shared was the expectation. I'm going to say expectation and hope that
Right.
others would
Yeah.
support you and others would be there. What was that like for you?
That because I am a supporter of for everyone and do go all out of my way to help, I would have thought that I would have had more support from family, friends, and things, but it just didn't happen, and I couldn't understand if it was some other underlying reasons that they don't. I was thought it was a good cause that they should jump right in and help me, but as we would discuss, everybody's not like me, and
Mhm.
I had to realize that my passion was not everybody else's passion, and I just didn't get the support that I thought that I was going to get.
Hearing those words, everyone isn't like me, and my passion is
Mhm.
not their passion.
Mhm.
Emotionally, what was
Mhm.
that? How did that impact you mentally?
As it like I said, at the time I was single, and I would go home and try to just write out stuff and think about stuff. What else could I do? I was invited to other seminars and other pop-up shops and things, but it was just like no support, and that was kind of hard for me because I've always been a supportive person, like all my life, and I was just my expectations might have been high, than higher than I thought, but it did take a toll on me. But hey, I had to pull them up and keep on going.
I get that. Was there any form of barriers of trust that crept in for you?
In the beginning, maybe the barrier of trust because I had a lot of time to prepare for like my opening and everything. I had everything prepared. I had the backdrop, I had the food, I had the flyers, I had the cards, I had the materials, I had everything, and was expecting, people to come. It was a Saturday, it was a good time, and like we discussed before, I think maybe three people showed up. One being a sister of mine. So I was just like, is this something else telling me that this is not going to work or stop? But I just shrugged it off and said, no, I'm the kind of person I'm going to drive and keep on going ahead. But that took a toll. Disappointment. I didn't get any really negativity from anybody from what I was doing, or don't do that, or that's not going to work, or how could you do that, and nobody wants to talk about that. And, I didn't get the negativity, I just didn't get the direct support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Understandable. We actually have created a worksheet that actually follows this podcast. And for those that are enjoying this segment, which is that we are talking about for Toni, Miss Toni. I'm sorry, it's just
That's
that I'm
okay.
still getting used to the
To the
married
new
name,
name.
So, but our title for this segment is surplus over shame,
Mhm.
leadership loss, and the brain's response to disappointment. Surplus over
Mhm.
shame, leadership loss, and the brain's response to disappointment. I
Mhm.
share that part here because I want you to know that we also have created a worksheet that you can apply that goes right along with this video. You'll be able, the
Okay.
information will be inside of our description. You'll be able to click on that link, purchase that worksheet, and
Okay.
follow along. And if you are impacted in any ways, from shame, from loss, from embarrassment, and feeling like your calling is just not, um, it's just not there because people are not supporting you in the same manner. That worksheet is going to help you. So, just want to plug that part in, let you know that
Okay.
as we get back for Miss Toni and just sharing a little bit more about her. So, using the word surplus, Miss Toni,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
you said your that you in your in our pre-interview that you were going to build up
Yes.
your surplus. What does surplus means to you beyond finances?
Surplus would mean to me is always having something to give.
Hmm.
Don't run out. A couple of times I like just ran out of everything, but then I had to build up my funds to go ahead on and get some more surplus. So I saw that as, you know, not negativity, but I saw that as a mistake, maybe if you want to say where I could have been more prepared. Just like as we're taught, have 6 months worth of money and your savings like for bills or something. I'll have that kind of thinking when I started back up again. I'll have enough to at least keep me going for at least 6 months. Uh, in case something downfall or something happens that I won't be able to have the equipment that I need. But yeah, I have to have some surplus.
And yes, I think when we have the drive, we wake up, and I know that was me. We wake up and we feel God laying something on our heart, and
Mhm.
immediately we want to jump, but we don't quite understand that we have to prepare for the jump.
Fair.
We
Mhm.
have to look at other avenues. And so,
Yes.
I just want to say again, thank you for giving us a backdrop of the
Mhm.
areas that you are working on
Mhm.
presently now, with your along with your amazing husband Gene, who is helping
Mhm.
you to
Mhm.
revamp and to re-strategize and to put these resources in place and know how to move forward. So we definitely
Right.
commend you for that. And
Right. And
so,
we live and learn,
right.
and even as we had with the difficulty or interruptions or whatever we had with our interview in between the time that we spoke before and now, I was asked to, preach at my church, and I was like, oh my goodness, okay, what? And going through what we were talking about and everything, I preached about hope, and the title, I guess, if you would say, was hope even at the end of your rope. And I've used that analogy throughout my teaching, my school, my daycare, my computer shop. Everything is like, hold on, don't give up. I'm never going to give up. If you feel like you're giving up, I said, just tie another knot and hold on because help is on the way.
I'm glad you shared this because in a previous podcast that I did, the individual shared that he held on to hope.
Yeah.
And I used the same exact analogy, not even
Mhm.
knowing that was what you ministered on. I used the
Yeah.
same exact analogy, and I shared with him. I said, as you were describing your hope and how you held on, it it gave me the visual of the rope with the knot at the
Right.
bottom, and what's
Hold
tied
on.
up at the bottom of that
Hold
rope
on.
is
Hold
hope.
on.
I
Yes.
love it. Absolutely. Yes, and we have to. Everybody has a form of hope in some manner, and so we just have to find out what it is. And so, what you are doing, Miss Tony, is
Uh-huh.
so important. It is helping so many people, and I'm thankful
Yes.
that you have found the
Thank you.
hope that you need to keep
Yes.
persevering. But I want to go back a little bit. Your life story include resilience through
Mhm.
abusive relationships and
Mhm.
starting over in love later in life. How
Yes.
was healing in your personal relationship shaped how you now approach leadership and boundaries?
It strengthened me mentally. It strengthened me to let me know that just keep going. Just to keep going. Don't give up. Things are going to get better. Basically, some of the things not your fault. Some of the things you couldn't change. We tried to be our own savior and try to fix everything, and we can't fix everything. We just I took on the attitude of live and learn, get the good out of everything, even if it's I'm not going to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Looking back, what would you tell women who are carrying purpose, pain, and responsibility all at once and feel like
Well,
they're doing it alone?
Well, first of all, I would say get out of the pain. If it's keep on going, because people will take your kindness for weakness and make you weaker. But I would say first of all, get out of whatever it is that's paining you. If I would have listened to what I should have been listening to, it might not have been as hard as it was. But just perseverance. Just keep on going. Don't let anybody steal your joy. Don't let anybody steal the purpose that you know. When you know that you have a purpose and that God gave you that purpose and that you want to do that, don't let anyone talk you out of it. I was talked out of a few things, and I was like, no, why did I let them talk me out of that? I worked hard for that. But go with what you know is right to do.
Thank you so much for sharing
Mhm.
those words of wisdom. This
Mhm.
is very important for whomever is in that same place that Miss Tony.
Yes.
We encourage you to download the worksheet off of our site. The information will be put in our description. Let me show you why what she shared is so important. So I'm going to bring in our little Brittany. And
Okay.
so, with Brittany, we're going to talk about chronic stress because that's what she was up under. She was
Mhm.
impounded by a lot of chronic stress, trying to build her company, trying to get the supplies and stocks that she needs, trying to maintain financially. So she became very overwhelmed. And so
Yes.
when you become overwhelmed, the brain becomes overwhelmed and to the
Mm-hmm.
point where it's like, ooh, it can't think, it can't function, it can't do a whole
Right,
lot of
right.
things. And yeah. And so she began to question who she was. She also
Yes.
began, if I can add, she also began to question, did God really say that?
Thank you. Right.
Did he
Mm-hmm.
really say
Okay.
that? You know? And so she actually opened up some little places inside that we want to talk about. And so what was one of those places? Repeated disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Repeated disappointment. You see, there's a part of our brain called the amygdala, and it stores information. And so that part of the brain that was storing the information, it felt that form of threat detection.
Yeah. Yeah.
It made her, it brought on forms of fears, it brought on
Yeah.
forms of insecurities. And so it caused her to question the way that she's moving.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if this is for her, why is she doing this? And then on top of that, when others didn't show up, it stimulated two primary things: rejection and abandonment.
Yes.
So just imagine those wounds being open to the point where um, Miss Toni was like, okay, I just give up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. It happens to you. It happens to me. It happens to every one of us because she kept using the word over and over: expectation. And the
Mm-hmm.
biggest part of it is burnout.
Right.
Because guess what, she would with the other thing that she was doing, she was going different places trying to find resources because it wasn't about her, it was about those that she was serving. And
Right.
so ranking, in my grandmother's words, wringing her brain trying to find resources, begging people to see her
Yes.
vision, and in hopes that someone would come along and support. That is a sore spot. That's a wound that opens up, and not including the financial part of it, not including trying to be there for her own family. um
Right.
all of that kind of um goes hand in hand. But the one thing that activated this part of her brain called the frontal lobe, which is our intelligent part of our brain, she said the word surplus. If you heard
Mm-hmm.
that, surplus was the word that helped her to begin to think about, maybe I moved in the wrong direction. I did not
Mm-hmm.
prepare first.
Right.
Didn't know that the need was greater than what she could provide.
Thank you.
So it caused her to
Mhm.
be able to step backwards and create a game plan as to how she will move forward, a very intense strategic plan. What will make this so much better? Number one, she's operating in mental clarity.
Mhm.
Number two, she's making certain that the steps that she's taking will provide resources, will provide the finances, will provide the support with volunteers. So she's created a whole entire game plan that will reposition her as she moves forward. And not the last part, developing relationships. Even though the expectations were based on individuals that she supported, she's
Mhm.
expanding her scope. She didn't say this,
Yeah.
but she and I kind of said it. She didn't say it
Mhm.
on the segment, but we kind of talked about it. It's expanding her scope, looking at other partnerships that can help her from a
Right.
perspective that, because a lot of times, when we start out, especially in nonprofit, we grab mama and them, we grab
Everybody. Everybody.
everybody, we grab
Everybody.
everybody. We give them a title and we give them a job, and
That's right.
yeah, we use what we can, that free service, those free service, we're looking for them. And so now, she will move a little bit more. So basically she is reframing her mindset. And so to
Mhm.
reframe her mindset is enabling her to be able to move more strategic, as you've heard me say, operate in mental clarity, and not overwhelm herself when she can't fulfill. Why is
Yeah.
that so important? Because we don't want her to fail. Number one, we don't
No.
want her to fail.
No.
We don't want her to put over expectations on things to the point that it cause her to feel insecure about herself.
Right.
And so with what
Exactly.
she has actually defined, is it will enable her to come out, be all the things that that she has set forth for this platform.
Right. Mhm.
And so, Miss Tony, I'm so excited and thankful. As you might have seen me say earlier,
Yes.
I am honored that you gave me some of your time for you
That's
coming
okay.
in.
Yeah, I love it. I told you anytime I can help, I'm there.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have always been there, no matter when I call on you, and I'm so thankful. And so, for our listening audience, um, you know, Tony's story reminds us that purpose doesn't make us immune to disappointment,
Exactly.
and giving doesn't guarantee reciprocity.
Mhm.
But what we can learn, especially through a trauma informed lens, is that our brains are always working to protect us. When
Mhm.
support doesn't show up, when we experience repeated strain or relational pain, the brain adapts, sometimes by overworking, overgiving, or even silencing our needs. And
Exactly.
healing begins when we recognize that and choose differently. Building surplus, setting boundaries, releasing shame, these are not just strategies, they are acts. Excuse me, they're not just these are not just strategies, they are acts of nervous system care.
Right.
If today's conversation resonate with you, I encourage you to reflect on this question. Where might I need to build surplus in my life right now? Thank you for joining us on Elevation in Action, Trauma, Truth, and Transformation, where we don't just tell stories, we understand them, honor them, and transform through them. Until
Yes.
next time, take care of your mind, your heart, and your healing. Thank you.
Thank you.